Thank you, Madam Chairman. One of the things I continue to be incredibly excited about is the potential for energy storage to improve the efficiency, the reliability, the resiliency of our system that generates and delivers electric power to homes and businesses. Widespread use of energy storage could help integrate renewable energy resources into our grid, support more robust microgrids like we heard about in Alaska, and optimize the operation of all types of power generating sources. Increasingly, battery technologies at the utility scale and in homes and businesses are already helping to shave peak periods, provide valuable ancillary services, and displace new investment in generation, substations, and transmission and distribution lines. That is why I will soon be reintroducing a bill, the Energy Storage Tax Incentive and Deployment Act, that establishes a new investment tax credit for energy storage technologies. Currently, there are no direct tax incentives available for energy storage, and the bill would provide an investment credit of 30% for both grid and residential applications that would phase down over a period of 5 years. As storage technologies improve and state and federal regulations continue to evolve to remove barriers to energy storage in all applications, my bill will help stimulate integration of energy storage into the nation's grid, and I am pleased that a number of my colleagues on this committee have chosen to be original co-sponsors of that legislation. That leads me to my first question for you, Mr. Walker. I have to say I was disappointed that energy storage did not appear more prominently in the recommendations of Secretary Perry's recent staff report on reliability and resiliency of the power grid, and I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on the state of energy storage and DOE's role in supporting innovative storage technologies and, for that matter, their deployment.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I am a huge proponent of storage. Storage within the industry has always been considered the holy grail of the technology leaps that we could possibly make. So when you talk about storage, and the reliability report does not specifically spend a significant amount of time regarding storage, but there is one component that is spoken about in that report wherein the reference is meant to be storage, even though I'm not sure it articulates it that way, and that deals with the flexibility of the system. So when discussing the reliability and the resiliency of the system, particularly with the integration of renewables, the flexibility component is the component that enables the peak power, the utilization of some of those renewables against the base load. So, you know, based on work that I've done at Gridwise Alliance, advocating for modernization, storage was a big component of that. And when I sat on the Electricity Advisory Committee about 10 years ago for the Department of Energy, we spent a great deal of time dealing with storage. In fact, the president of the largest storage consortium was on that EAC committee with me as well. So it is something that we're very much focused on. There's existing R&D projects presently at multiple of the national labs, sponsored by the Department of the Office of Electricity.
I would suggest that storage is no longer the holy grail of the power system. It's more like the bacon of the power system. A little bit makes everything better. I want to ask you a little bit about, you mentioned the polar vortex and the impact that that had on our power grid based on what the impacts on combined cycle natural gas. Are you also familiar with the role that demand response played in that episode? Because I think that was one of the unsung heroes of resiliency in the midst of the polar vortex.
I don't have all the details of the polar vortex and the use of demand response, but I'm intimately familiar with the use of demand response. It was something at Con Edison when we would go into into the heat waves in the summer, and I was the emergency management director. We would utilize demand response as one of the methodologies to control the 30-plus independent secondary networks within Manhattan.
I'd urge you to take a look at that, because I think it played a very important role in that episode, and one that was not necessarily appreciated at the time because it went unseen, as many things in the power sector do. So thank you, Mr. Walker, and I'll come back for a second round if I have time. Thanks.